Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we've got a rather interesting review. We're taking a look at the QSP Canary, a deceptively simple knife that took me a long time to gather my thoughts on. This turned out to be a much more complicated review than I anticipated. But let's go ahead and kick things off. Start off with our blade length measurement. Sharpened edge is coming in here just a smidge under 4 inches. Overall blade length is closer to 4 1/4, a little bit over 4 inches. There you go. Overall length, I guess we'll go ahead and do that too. I'm sorry about the lighting, guys. It's kind of dark in here right now. It's late. About 9 inches long. Yeah. Trying to fix the lighting a little bit. It's that time of day. It's getting late. I just got back from work, so lighting is not going to be great. But let's do our size comparisons. Here it is against the Rat 1. And where's the Rat 2? There he is. And here it is against the Rat 2. Cool. I don't think we're going to do a whole lot of folding knife comparisons because it doesn't make much sense here. But I will bring out a couple of QSPs that you might be familiar with. Here's the QSP Penguin. And here it is against the QSP Vault. I do not have any of the other versions of the QSP Canary, of which there are many. But there we go. And let's actually, you know what? I am going to compare it against the Bug Out and the PM2, just because these knives are so ubiquitous. Sweet. And now let's compare it against a couple of fixed blades. I'm just realizing I should have dug out my Gerber Strong Arm, but I honestly don't know where it is. What I do have here right now is the Demco Free Rein, which is a very cool knife. And of course, the greatest fixed blade ever made, the Cold Steel SRK, which is quite a bit bigger. Next, let's bring out the Sincut Waxahachie, because look at that. That's kind of I think about the same theme going. I like this green on black motif. And let's compare it against a Mora Basic. Sweet. I think that's going to cover our bases on size comparisons. What about materials? Well, we have micarta scales in this case. I think there's also G10 versions available. We have a black coated blade made of CR8MO2VSI, which is an equivalent to DC53, which is a steel that I've just really gotten to know this year. And the sheath is Kydex. Fold over Kydex. All right. Let's go cut some stuff. Hey guys, so I just got back from a camping trip, and of course I took the QSP Canary XL with me. Put it through its paces, did a bunch of batoning and stuff, and it handled the actual abuse pretty well. I was actually impressed with how the blade held up, and actually the edge is like mirror polished now, which is kind of fun. We've got some edge damage you can see up there towards the tip. A couple spots down here, but you know, by and large, it held up pretty well. Wish the blade was a little bit longer for batoning. You know, this is a good thickness for batoning, but I just wish we had a little more length. Anyways, while I was batoning too, the scales loosened up, which is not honestly all that surprising, but I figured this would be a good opportunity to take those scales off and just kind of see what this knife looks like under the hood. I don't think we're going to be super surprised. I think we're going to see that it's a full tang with these holes milled through it. Sorry. But, you know, let's just take it off. Look at what's under there. Put some Loctite on these screws, and we should be good. What are these? Looks like a T8, maybe. That's a T7, Gideon. I think it is T8, but kind of felt a little bit loose. Might be T9. You know what? Let's see if it's a T10. Yep, I think it's a T10. Okay. So yeah, I'm probably gonna put this in my full review for this knife, but I'm not ready to film a review yet at all. I've had this knife for a while, and I've been using it. I've been taking it with me on all my adventures. You know, I've decided to take it instead of my usual pick, which is my Coldsteel SRK. And I can tell you right now, I'd much rather have this knife with me in all my adventures than this one. But I'm still really struggling to get my thoughts together on this knife. Because, to be honest, my first impression of this knife, and after the first couple of adventures I took it on, we took out the long side, I was not impressed. I really was not impressed at all. Get out of there. Thank you. It's been growing on me the more I've carried it, to be completely honest. Or I guess not growing on me. I've just been realizing that, okay, I can use this, right? It's not the worst thing ever, which I guess I never really thought it was. But is this going to be a folding knife that I would recommend to anyone over the SRK? Absolutely not. So there we go. There it is, all naked. Very, very simple blank. It'd be really easy for you to make your own scales for this knife. You've got a very, generic shape to the handle. Yeah, feels a lot like a throwing knife right now. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and just stick this guy back together. We'll get some thread locker on here and keep those scales from jiggling out next time I decide to baton with this thing. And by the way, I feel like all of my regular viewers are pretty cool with batoning, but if there's anyone watching who's like, why are you batoning with a knife? I think batoning firewood is perfectly an acceptable thing to do with a fixed blade. In fact, when I go camping, I take a fixed blade knife and a folding saw. I don't even bother with an axe because you find branches and stuff on the ground, saw them into little logs, and then you can split them with your knife. Right? And then, of course, your knife is multi-purpose. It can do more than just that. So I think that's a pretty elite combo. Blue Loctite, of course. We don't want to prevent myself from getting into this knife ever again. We just want it to resist vibrations a little bit better. I also feel like, as a whole in the knife world, everyone's kind of come around on like batoning. I don't really see very many comments anymore on my videos or anyone else's videos where it's like, you should never baton with your knife. That's misuse. I feel like most people have accepted that, a little bit of batoning is not going to hurt anything. And any fixed blade worth its salt should be able to be whacked a couple of times, in my opinion. And I'm not planning on going on any adventures for a couple of days, at least, because I've got things in my real life I need to do, unfortunately. So we can let this guy kind of sit and cure while I do that. Let that Loctite set. I'll be good to go. But yeah, so again, I'm probably going to throw this into the review, and you'll probably be able, in fact, you will absolutely hear my full thoughts on this knife then, but yeah, there we go. QSP Canary XL, people. Alrighty, guys. Let's talk about a knife. Let's do some review cutting. This is a QSP Canary XL, as you probably guessed because you're watching the review for it right now. I have had a back and forth with this knife, to be sure, but today we're just going to be doing the review cutting. The edge, yeah, I touched this up the other day, so not a factory edge, but I've been really beating the snot out of this guy, so he's needed some help with the edge. Okay, so let's go ahead and get on with it. Ergonomics. You see here that we've got a lot of handle to work with. It's hand filling. I like that. It's not exactly contoured. We've got kind of rounded over edges here. But it is kind of blocky. I wish there were contour scales, and that'd be a lot better. You can see here we've got a lot of room to work with. I kind of feel like it's a little bit too much handle for this blade. I would have liked them to either give us a little bit more blade or shorten the handle a bit. The balance on this knife, in my opinion, is not amazing. You can see it's about there, which, you know, I would prefer the balance to be up here a little ways right there. That's just, this knife feels a little bit weird in hand, to me at least. Handles, yeah, again, very, very thick, which I don't normally mind. I wish they were contoured, though. That would make it a lot better. I'm not a big fan of these holes here, just because sometimes when I grab the knife, you know, I've got like, sometimes my fingers are like slipped into those holes. It just feels a little bit odd. But there's no like major hot spots or anything like that. So, you know, do with that information what you will. I think the handle is in need of a little bit of a redesign, though, to be honest. Okay, let's talk about the carry. Here's the sheath, Kydex sheath. I like that it's got a thumb push-off point here. Good retention. No rattle or anything. I do wish it felt a little bit snappier. And that was pretty good. But yeah, absolutely fine Kydex sheath. To carry the knife out of the box, it comes with this thing right here. This is basically just a little J-clip, and you can rotate it to different positions. So let's go ahead and put this on the belt. So you can carry it technically scout style, but I do not like this. That like hangs down a lot. Feels kind of janky to me. So I've been carrying this knife mostly a traditional vertical carry. So let's get that on the belt. There you go. Comes up a little bit, you know, it rides kind of high, you know. There's my ribs there. It doesn't really bother me that much, but, you know, if you're someone that's got, you know, more love handles than I do, that's probably not going to be super comfortable. Let's go ahead and rotate this thing a little bit just so you guys can see some of the other ways to carry it. A little bit difficult to rotate it when it's on the belt. There you go. I mean, I guess you can do that. There's that horizontal carry. Of course, I'd like probably want to flip this to the other side, put it on my back, and go like that. But I don't know. I don't like the way that that hangs. I just don't really like that. This is a fine grip, or a fine way to wear it, I guess. I don't know. The carry is fine. Like I said, I've been leaving it basically in the standard vertical carry. Get off of there, you son of a gun. Gosh dang. It grabs onto your belt real good. I guess that's a good thing. Oh, come on, you. That was damn near pissing me off. Anyways, I've just left it like this. To me, that's the best way to carry it. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and cut some stuff. So we have a spear point blade here made out of, what is this steel called? CR8 MO2VSI. I think this is basically the equivalent of DC53 steel. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. I'll do some research on that. But full flat grind. Let's go ahead and cut some stuff. Yeah, I mean, as far as a full-size fixed blade like this goes, it slices very, very well. You actually do come down to a very nice thin tip. Let's go ahead and do some utility cuts, because this is a spear point. You can get to that tip without raising your arm too much, and you can get to your cuts. It is a big fixed blade, so the control's not, you know, incredible, but there you go. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead, get out the rope. Yikes. That might have been me. I don't know, that didn't feel amazing. Let's go ahead and crunch down on this. Good golly. What? So we have a fairly thick spine, but man, that is not wanting to crunch through that real well. Is the edge really that thin? Well, there you go. There's that, I guess. Yikes. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the pool noodle, shall we? All right. 1. 2. You little... I'll pick that up in a second. 3. Okay, yeah, that one tore pretty badly. Let me pick up that one that rolled away. Okay. So yeah, you can see that one tore quite a bit. Felt pretty good going through for the most part. These other ones, yeah, that's the one that tore real bad. This one had a little bit of a tear out. And again, I mean, it's not like it's got a super thin blade stock, but I wasn't trying to go all that thin on these pool noodles. And it was ripping out. I mean, I don't know. It is a fixed blade, though. I'm going to say that's a fine pool noodle result for a fixed blade like this. Overall, the cutting was pretty good. This is a solid blade. I'm not sure why that rope push did not do that great. We were just sliding off this belly. But yeah, there you go. Take a look at that thing, and probably going to go show some testing footage right about now. Ah, come on. Alrighty guys, so we have reached the part of the video where we do some outdoor use testing with this knife. I'll tell you right now before we start, this isn't even testing. This is just demonstrating for you guys, just to have it on camera. But throughout the use that I've been putting this knife through over the past few months, I expect it'll do just fine with everything we're going to be doing today. I've whittled with this knife, I've batoned with this knife, and it does all those tasks about as well as you could expect. I think that's kind of going to be the theme of this review. This knife does what you want it to do, and not much extra. It's an okay knife. It's a very okay knife. It's a little lackluster in my opinion, but you know, we'll go ahead and get into that. First of all, I just want to do some whittling a little bit. This is a decently thick, is about an inch in diameter piece of old seasoned cedar. This is a couple years old. Got some other pieces of cedar here that we're going to be batoning. Some stuff that's kind of wonky shaped. That's good for demonstrating a knife's batoning capabilities. And then maybe we'll grab some aspen from back here to do some stuff with. But I think we're just going to make this into a tent stake. That's one of my favorite things to do to show the whittling capabilities of a knife like this, is we'll make a big chunky tent stake. And we'll tilt the camera down here so you can actually see what I'm doing. Alrighty, there we go. Felt, pretty good. The blade handled that task really easily. Full flat grinds are pretty nice for woodworking and outdoor stuff. The handle was starting to get a little bit, starting to fatigue my hand a little bit later on, but not too bad. It's rounded, it's big, gives you a good little grip. Let's go ahead and put a notch into this at the top to make it a tense stake. I chose a one spot that's got a little knot in it, so we're gonna actually go to this other side just because. Yeah, much better. Right here, I can feel the balance of this knife working against me. It's very, very back heavy. I feel like I don't have that much control over the blade for this finer task. The handle's really trying to like pull me down. So, not a huge fan of that. The blade itself, though, does work nicely for, what we're doing here. But yeah, that balance is leaving a lot to be desired. This spear point blade is good for digging into the wood. I do like that quite a bit. And you know what, we're going to stop there. There's our notch. Not the best notch, but this is kind of a bent piece of wood. I really wouldn't want to use this as a tent stake anyways, if I was actually having to use this. But there we go. It did fine. This is not going to be the greatest whittler ever, but you can do it in a pinch. Let's go ahead and do some choppy stuff and things like that. See if I can, let's see here. Got a nice long crack in the top. I wonder if I could just chop this in half. Oof. Not with that aim. Yeah. Not enough blade to work with. Let's go ahead and get a little bit closer. We're going to go ahead and baton this in half. As you can see here, it's a little bit bigger than we have blade length for, but it's also got this nice split down the middle, so this knife should be able to handle this without too much difficulty. Yeah. Not too bad, not too bad. Let's see, what's a good piece to do some chopping on? I'm going to drag one of these big logs over. Now we're not going to chop this completely in half. I'm just going to take a few whacks at it to see what the shock absorption is like on this handle. The handle is wide and kind of blocky, which gives it a good purchase when you're whittling, but I feel like it's going to have pretty terrible shock absorption. So let's go ahead and test that out. You know what? We're going to do like this. I think that's a better angle. All right.
You know, to be honest, that was not as bad as I was expecting it to be. I wouldn't say it's comfortable. You can feel the vibrations, but the energy transfer from the wood to the blade to my hand is not as much as I would have expected. Definitely not a chopping knife, but there we go. Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and do some more. Where did I put that tent stake? Oh, there it is. Not too bad, not too bad. We're gonna grab this aspen round. We've also got a nice big split in this, so I imagine we can handle it here. Almost there. Oh no, I broke my beater. That's okay. Alrighty. There we go. Let's go ahead and quarter it. It's not the greatest batoner in the world, but the blade stock is fine, but the blade is just, you know, not as long as I prefer. Get this little, this is a pretty dense piece of cedar. Should be able to see what we got. We got a couple of big knots in here, so this will be a test. Woo! Yeah, that is dense. Holy cow. All right, let's see if we can go along this crack here. We might come back to that one. Let's try this one. We've also got a couple of big knots and it's curved, which makes things difficult. So let's have at it. All right. That's probably as much of that as we need to do. Short blade, not best for batoning. And this thin tip really bites into whatever baton you're using. It really eats it up. So, not the greatest batoner, but you can do it in a pinch if you really need to, I guess.
And we're back. Boy, oh boy, where do I start with this knife? Well, I guess we'll start where I always start, with the things that I'm liking. Focus up, camera. Number one, I do like the idea of this knife. I like the concept. That's one of the reasons that made me want to purchase this knife. I really love this spear point blade shape. I think that's a great outdoor knife blade shape. I like the idea of this kind of, basic but heavy duty bushcraft knife vibe. And actually, we're going to turn this light off real quick. See if that helps with the lights in here. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I should have just done that from the beginning. Anyways, I like the idea behind this knife. It's a heavy-duty budget bushcraft knife, and I think that's really cool. Next thing, the coating on this blade, this is a black stonewash, so kind of a coating, has actually held up really well. I have been beating the snot out of this knife for months. I've been using this knife pretty much exclusively on all my adventures, and I'm really impressed at how the coating's held up. So that's very cool. Next thing, I do think that this blade is done very well. I do like the geometry here. We have a full flat grind. We've got the swedge here. You can see that we've got a pretty beefy stock. I mean, that's no joke. Let's bring out the rat again. Yeah, you can see here, maybe, that this is substantially thick, but it does taper to a very nice point. And so you have a very strong, robust blade, but the geometry is actually fairly thin and slicey for any of your more delicate cutting tasks or woodworking, things like that. The sharpening choil is done really well. I like that we have this little finger guard here to prevent you from scooting up onto the blade. I think all that is done really nicely. The DC53 steel, I don't have much complaints with it. I think it did just fine. I think it's a good steel for this kind of a knife. I guess it's basically a tougher D2. Yeah, I thought it was fine. It worked out just well. I did notice some rolling. In fact, I think the tip is rolled right now. Focus up, camera. Focus up. I know. It's the time of night that you don't like. And then you can see out there towards the tip, we got a little bit of rolling. Nothing that a quick honing won't fix. But yeah, just right there, a little bit deflected. And I'd rather it roll than chip, so that's perfectly fine. The construction's also nice and simple. We just got these two rivets here holding the scales on. I think that's fine. The sheath itself, positive click. It stays in there nice and securely. There's no rattling. There's no tapping. And I also like that they gave you a push-off point here. This is a small feature, but it's so important, and a lot of companies miss it. But this is a good push-off point, and I appreciate that they put that on there. Okay, let's go ahead and go into some of my negatives. And let's actually start with this sheath. The sheath itself is fine, but I do not like this attachment point that much. Yeah, it's got that little, system where you can rotate it and it'll lock into a different position. I don't care about that at all. I don't really think it's a good concept. It's a good idea. It's a good, in theory, but I just don't think the execution's all that special. The other thing too is that I really just don't like this little system here. Carrying the knife vertically was the best way to do it, in my opinion. Any other way, and that's in my opinion a lot of awkward hang for scout carry. That's a lot of drop. That's unnecessary in my opinion. It also, this system, let's move this back where I like it. This system keeps the knife quite a ways away from your body, which I sometimes don't like, because that means that if you're walking through the brush or something, plants and things can get caught up in here a lot easier and just kind of slow you down. Now, the hole pattern on here does make it easy to switch to some other carry options if you wish, but I think they should I think they should give you a good carry system right out of the box, right? You shouldn't have to go and buy secondary gear. The clip works fine, but I don't really like it. I don't trust it all that much. So this part of the sheath, the part that actually goes on the knife, great, wonderful. Love the push-off point, very solid. This attachment here, not a big fan. Moving on to the knife itself. This knife feels stupidly proportioned to me. This thing is so back heavy. It makes the knife not that nimble in your hands. You can choke up to here, and this feels all right. But most of the time, the knife feels a little bit awkward to me, a little bit clunky. And I think what they should have done is either given a little bit more blade. They should have made this, instead of a 4-inch blade, maybe a 5.5, 6-inch blade with this much handle. I mean, how long is the handle? Let's see what we got here. Yeah, like 4.5 inches on the handle. It feels like a little bit too much for me. And it's going to be great because, a lot of different people can get their hands on here. But I kind of wish that if they were going to give you a blade that's this long, they would shorten the handle, or if they were bound and determined to give you this much handle, they would have given you a little more blade. The handle is thick and it's comfortable. I guess I should have mentioned that the handle is comfortable, but it's not like mind-blowingly comfortable. And sometimes these holes here, in certain grips, I was finding my pinky or, sometimes the flesh in my palm was getting in those holes and debris and grit would get in there while I was using it. I just didn't like it that much. I'm glad they put the holes there, because without those holes, this thing would really, really be unwieldy. But, speaking of the balance, let's see here. There it is, about right there, about the center of this hole here. I would have liked to see it come forward just a little bit more. It would have made this knife feel a little more nimble. But yeah, that's honestly kind of my biggest complaint with this knife, is that it feels clunky and unwieldy, and it shouldn't. This should be a nimble, easy to use knife. Next thing, I wish there was some jimping up here. There's a couple things wrong with the spine. Number one, it's not quite crisp enough to throw sparks off of a rod, which is a shame, and it's missing jimping. And I think jimping would have gone a long way in improving the handling and ergonomics of this knife. And that's about it. Let's go ahead and go on to my final conclusions. This knife was hard for me to review in a lot of ways. I carried this knife for months. It went with me on just about every hiking trip, camping trip, every adventure I did. I had this knife with me. Put it through its paces, did a lot of work with it, but I was just left feeling a little bit dissatisfied. Now, everything that I needed to do with this knife, I was able to do, right? I was able to do every job that I required, but it didn't feel like it was as satisfying as it could have been. And so when it comes to my recommendation for this knife, is it an okay knife? Yeah, but that's about it. It's an okay knife. It's okay. It's a budget knife. If you buy this, I don't think you'll be upset. You might be a little bit disappointed, but you're not going to be like upset. It's going to do knife stuff. In fact, this blade, I really like this blade. I think this is a good blade. The handle is where I have most of the issues. The handle is what makes this knife feel unrefined and clunky and just kind of lacking as a tool. So I'm going to say, don't buy this. There are a ton of other great knives that you can buy for this price or less. Ahem. But if you do, for some reason just love the looks of this knife, or you're trying to complete your Canary collection or something like that, I don't think you'll be, angry that you purchased this. I just think there's better options out there. It does everything that, a knife like this should do, I guess. But if you're expecting anything more, this is going to leave you wanting. And should you expect anything more than just, the bare minimum of utility? I don't know. That's between you and the knife, I guess. But for me, I was hoping for a little bit more. So that's going to be it from me today, guys. A perfectly average fixed blade that I had high hopes for. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe, and share the video. That helps a lot. Big shout out to my channel members right here. I really appreciate everything they do for the channel. If you want to become a channel member, there's a button down below. Alrighty, I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.